Well, I want to welcome everybody here today. Thank you for coming. We've got a lot of people. This is a very big graduation for us. We have 3 guys graduating in one day. This is humongous for the Discovery School. And so things are done a little bit differently. We've got a lot of guests, and so I think I want us to start with having each of these fellows graduating today introduce parents and grandparents that they have here with them, and then maybe explain who everybody else is too. So Aaron, why don't you go first?
This is my dad, Courtney. This is my mom, Rhonda. This is my grandmother and my granddad.
That's my father, Dennis, my mother, Kathleen, her boyfriend, Al. Starting here at the left, this is my sister, Stacy, Stephanie, Colleen, Eileen, and that's Jack Miller's parents who came for the graduation.
This is my dad, Gilbert, my grandmother, Olga, and my mom, Nancy.
And I suppose it's a little awkward. We're going to do things out of order here. Father Dunnan, our speaker for today, has agreed to deliver an invocation, so if everybody would please stand up.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for this good school and for the opportunity that these young men have to live and to grow together in this good place. We give thanks for Brian, Joe, and Aaron for their good journeys, for their parents, counselors, teachers, and friends. We ask you to inspire this gathering that we all may learn more of your wisdom here, the gift of your love, and the promise of life ahead. We ask you to bless Brian, Joe, and Aaron as they journey forth from here, to give them the courage to take the good lessons which they have learned here, to build new lives of service and of purpose, so that they may build your kingdom and find your joy. Amen.
And now to introduce our speaker for today, I'm going to ask Mr. Yates to come up.
There's a plaque, a stone plaque in Farmville that I've driven by several times. It has a saying. I've been looking for a time to say this to everybody, but now is the time to do it. It says, "Friends are a man's priceless treasure. A life rich in friendship is full indeed." Now, the name at the bottom of that says R.T. Jones. Now, I'm going to guess that nobody here knows who R.T. Jones is. I'll explain that later. But what I'm saying about this is Father Dunnan came down here out of friendship. And he's here. Father Dunnan's had a long and successful career doing many things. And as you look in the back of the graduation bulletin, it talks about he's headmaster of St. James School. He's been there 15 years. He is an Episcopal priest and the head of a school. So here's a man who wears a lot of hats, does a lot of things on a daily basis, and there's a ton of responsibility. But he came down here to be here today because of friendship. Friendship is the thing that holds us all together, no matter what we do or where we go. You're going to have friends here, and I hope that someday, in some way, you'll be reaching out to the friends you make here the way Father Dunnan has reached out to his friend here. I hope at the end of the day, as we leave here, that Father Dunnan will be a friend of the Discovery School. Because, as you guys know, one of the things we do here on a daily basis is try to be friends to not just ourselves, but to people in the community. And as we get friends from the community here, that strengthens everybody. It makes everybody's mission here work just that much better, because we all need the friends. Going back to my statement, friends are a man's priceless treasure. A life rich in friendship is full indeed. Does anybody know who R.T. Jones is? Somebody knows. Where's Mr. McKeechee? Okay. Mr. Recruit knows.
An amateur golfer.
That's correct. His name is Bobby. He's known to the world as Bobby Jones. And when he said this in the 1920s and 30s, he was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods, all rolled into one. He had ticker tape parades when he came back from Britain after he won the British Open, British Amateur. New York, the ticker tape parades, that's the biggest honor you can get. He would go out to Hollywood. He made movies in Hollywood. He was toasted by the Hollywood elite, the kings and queens of Europe. But that's what he said, and that's what he's remembered for. So, that being said, well done. Thank you very much for coming.
I should say that the reason I'm here, of course, is Mr. McKeechee, who is one of my students at St. James, as were two of his sisters, and I hope his little brother to come. And you know, gosh, when did we first meet? Was it 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago? Where are you, Will?
8 years ago.
8 years ago? I am so old. But you know, I'm you know, have stayed in close touch with him, and I'm so proud of what he's doing here, and really wanted to come down and see this school, which I think is just a miracle in the making. And it's you know, my congratulations to Mr. Yates and your excellent staff, but most importantly, my congratulations to all of you, these three good men who are graduating, but all of you, for this hard work that you're doing here. Work on yourselves, work together. It's important. It's important for you, yeah, but it's also important for all of us, because I think you're going to gain a lot of wisdom here that we all need to learn. And I hope you go forth from this place teaching all those good lessons that you've learned. What I want to do is tell two stories. And one is a story that I heard from Bill Cosby, and I'll build up to that. I'll tell you why I'm telling that story. And the second is, I think, really my best story. It's a story about myself. And the one thing that Mr. McKeechee told me, he says, don't bore them, just talk like you do in chapel. Don't come with some great big speech. So I'm going to just tell you these two stories. Do you remember my angel story? Good. It's obviously, he hasn't heard it, which would be good, or it's not sufficiently interesting that you remember it, which would be bad, but we'll see. But the Bill Cosby story, and leading up to it, meeting with Joe and Brian and Aaron and asking them what they had learned here, I was really impressed by their journey here. How all of you were challenged during your time here to really grow up in ways that I wish a lot of people would grow up. You know, we've got a lot of 45-year-old men out there acting like 12-year-old jerks. And you all are looking at that. You're looking at that in yourselves and in the friends that you had before you came here, and you're really addressing that and bringing that back into your lives. Wish everybody did that. You know, and I think it was particularly, it was Brian, and you were the one who said that you really learned how to be less self-centered here. And that's just a huge gift. You know, the importance of relationships, not fake ones that you get by doing things you shouldn't do, but real ones that you get by really talking to each other and listening to each other and helping each other and loving each other. With peers, with friends, but also with people in authority over you, that you don't view the adult as the enemy, but as a resource, and that you can really be grateful for what that adult has done for you. That might be your parents, that might be your counselor, that might be your teacher. That you really are mature enough to think, whoa, I needed that. I needed that hard advice. I needed that good direction. And I'm grateful for it. You know, that you You therefore are empowered to go out into the world and to find the right friends and to build the right community. You don't find the right community any more than anybody found this community. You build it. You have to go out there and build it. You pursue the vision and you build it. The difference between, I think many of you have learned and are learning, the difference between forgiveness and consequence, that, of course you're forgiven. The question is, are you going to take on the consequence and learn the lesson? Be that responsible person that you can be. The importance of being honest about yourself, with other people. Caring about other people. And really, and it's so sad that this is the hardest thing for us to do as we're growing up, to care for the people who care for you. Not treat them like your servants and your slaves, but be grateful to them. Care how they feel, not just how you feel. And I'm always saying to my students at school that, they're the damned and the saved, basically. And the damned are the takers and the renters. The ones who just take what they want and never even think about giving. And the ones who just kind of use a place and use people and never stay and put down roots and care for them and care about them. And this is your chance, this is your opportunity in this place that you guys have just had to really think, what am I? Am I a taker or a giver? Am I a renter or an owner? Am I a user or a helper? So Bill Cosby's story. Bill Cosby played football for Temple University in Philadelphia, and the promise that he made for himself was that he was going to go, and by the way, do you all know who Bill Cosby is? I'm getting old, as Mr. Peachy pointed out. He invented Fat Albert, but other than that, great comedian, great African-American comedian, a wonderful man of letters, very intelligent guy. And that's why he's so funny, because he can really kind of look at life honestly and bring that back to us. But he played football at Temple University in Philadelphia, and he grew up in Philadelphia. And he made a promise to himself that he would go and speak at the graduations of all the colleges whose football teams he played against. So my first senior prefect at St. James, Jordy Newman, was graduating from Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania, and he called down. He said, "Father, do you want to come to my graduation?" And Bill Cosby's speaking. And I thought, I'd love to come. So I went up to Gettysburg, and he gave this great speech. He told the parents that intern was a French word for slave. It was just very funny, but just what you'd expect him to be. He had his Gettysburg baseball cap on and everything. But he told this story, which I think is a really important story, and maybe something that you all can take back into your groups and into your lives, and because I thought was profound. He said that he loved Temple, and he was into the philosophy classes and feeling really smart and clever. And one day he came back and he was staying in his parents' row house, which was next door to his grandmother's row house right there in Philadelphia. So he came home after classes, and he locked himself out because he'd forgotten the key. So he went down to his grandmother's and he said, "I don't have the key, I can't get into the house." And she said, "Well, sit down and have a cup of tea and visit with your grandmother." And she said to him, "Well, what'd you do in college today? What'd you learn? What'd you study?" He said, "Well, it was awesome. We were in this philosophy class, and we were debating whether the glass was half full or half empty. And some people were saying it was half full, and some people were saying it was half empty, and we debated this for hours. And there was this argument, this argument, this argument. We were so smart, we were so clever." And the grandmother's listening to all this, and she said, "It depends, really." He said, "Depends on what?" She said, "Depends whether you're drinking or not." He said, "That woman left school in the 8th grade, and she's smarter than my philosophy professor at Temple. She figured it out. It depends whether you're drinking or pouring. If you're pouring, right, the glass is half full. If you're drinking, it's half empty. If you're the giver, life is full of promise and joy. If you're the taker, life is never going to make you happy." Secondly, a story about myself. and I'll explain to you afterwards why I think it's an important story. And I thought it was an interesting story. So if you've heard this story, Mr. McKeechee, and you've forgotten it, lie. Okay, because this is important. Or, no, tell me the truth. Tell me, that's the whole point. Tell me what you remember. You don't remember the angel story?
Maybe I'll remember it after you tell me.
Okay. I was 18 years old, senior in high school, going down to visit my older brother and his new wife. They'd just been married, and they were down, and he was in graduate school in North Carolina. He was at the University of North Carolina. So I was going down to see him. And my father was letting me use his Audi 100 LS. Now, for the adults present, you remember 100, it was sort of a boxy car, and it was very lightweight metal, and not a very big car, and it was kind of light on the ground. But it was Delft blue, it had a crank sunroof, an 8-track thing. It was hot. And it had priests are allowed to have hot things before they become priests. But it had genuine leatherette seats, which were vinyl. But in any case, it was this wonderful car. And I love this car, and I'm driving. You know how when you're first driving, you're not a very good driver. Sorry. And you don't know all the tricks. So I'm driving down, and it was a beautiful, clear day, but it was also very windy. And I didn't understand, as a new driver, that on windy days, you drive more slowly, right? Because the wind can catch your car. So I was driving too fast. And I'm driving down from Washington, and you go down 95, and then you're coming across, and I'm not remembering what you come across, what the road is, but it's a road where there's a gully that goes down in between. There's the southbound lane and the northbound lane, and you all probably know what this road is. And there's I'd say about a 30, 40-foot drop in between the two sides. At one stage with just a guardrail on either side. Are you picturing the road? Kind of know, or the kind of road I'm talking about? So I'm driving down this thing, and I'm cranking the sunroof and working with the, I don't know, like the carpenter's tape and the 8-track or something. This is sort of fooling around with my car, doing way too much, driving way too fast. And this burst, and and there was a lot of traffic. That was what was interesting about it. There were a lot of cars. It was the beginning of a weekend, so they were all driving out of Washington. And this was in 1977. I am old. 1977. So I'm driving down. And the wind caught my car. So my car's going down like this. And the wind caught the car crosswise. It caught the back of the car. And it spun the car 360 degrees. Now, you remembering this, Will? Is this coming back to you?
It's coming back.
That's good. It's coming. and it goes 360 degrees around the highway. And remember, it's just 2 lanes going south or west or whatever I was going. And then it did about another 180 degrees, so that I'm facing the traffic now. And I remember, I'm such an idiot. I'm still an idiot. We're always idiots. That's why we need God. But I'm driving this car, and I don't think I took my foot off the gas pedal. I really don't. I think it just, and I'm going around and at those times, and I'm sure, gentlemen, you've never heard of this show, but there was a show then called Charlie's Angels, which I watched because I was interested in the mystery and how it developed. That's the only reason why I ever watched that show. And so the wind catches the car, and it's just spinning around, it comes back around, and I'm thinking to myself, you get this spurt of adrenaline, don't you? Get the spurt of adrenaline. And the whole thing felt like it was taking about an hour. And I'm sure it was taking 30 seconds, if that, maybe 10. And I'm spinning around this thing, and it's going, and I think, wow, this is like Charlie's Angels. Right? Because remember they always had those spin scenes in Malibu and that show, and Farrah Fawcett's hair was flying, and things were, but in any case, I remember all. So I'm going around, and I hit this guardrail, and I slammed in the guardrail, and the car went like this. Are you remembering it now? No, you haven't. So I went down, and I could see the bottom of the ditch, about 30 feet down. It's a hard story to tell. I remember looking down there and seeing that, and thinking, my God, I could die. But there are many of you in this room who have known that moment. So I looked down, and I saw that. And I knew, and this is the truth, I knew in that moment that I was not going to die. I just knew it. I knew I wasn't going to die because I knew I was going to be a priest. I was 18 years old, and I knew that. I didn't promise to do that. I didn't say, God, if I live, I'll be a priest. I always knew I wanted to be a priest because I think I kind of like to dress up and be different. But I just knew. I was like I could see my future, and I knew that in my future, God would have use for me. There's no deal, no promise, no gift. Just God had something for me to do, and I wasn't going to die. I had a sense, if you will, of my future. And the car righted itself, and I'm looking at the traffic coming towards me, and there is no traffic. There are no cars. There's nothing. And remember, as I've been driving down there, there's been all this traffic, and there was no traffic. I'd spun around these two lanes, across these two lanes, facing the wrong direction, and there are no cars. I'd done it entirely safely. So I brought the car back, made the arc back to the side of the road to go back south or west or wherever I was going. And I pulled on the sign, I was very rattled. I'm like, oh Lord, what am I going to do? Never been in an accident in my life. And obviously the guardrail knocked in the front right fender, whole front right quadrant of the car. And I look up in my rear view mirror, and this big black pickup truck pulls up right behind me. Here I am, this preppy kid now from D.C., and the countryside of North Carolina, West Virginia, this big black pickup truck pulls up behind me. And this guy gets out there, very much a man of the country. And he comes up to me, and he taps on the window, and I go, Lord, he's going to kill me. I've seen Deliverance. This is as good as If you ever want to, by the way, if you ever want to empty your room with 48-year-old men, just play that tune and we're out. So I cranked the window down, and he said, kid, that was quite a turn you took there. Now remember, there was nobody on the road. It was quite a turn you took there. And then he said, and it looks like your fender's cutting into your left front tire. So he leaned down, he pulled it out. Pulled it out. Now, remember, an Audi is a kind of a cheap car. It was real thin. I'm sure it's doable when you build a house a week or whatever he did. I mean, he's a big guy, strong. So he pulled the fender out. So then you need to go down there to that exit down there, and you need to take the exit, and you need to go to the gas station, get some air in your tire because you don't have enough air in your tire, so that you can get on safe. I said, thank you, sir. He said, you're welcome. And I thought, wow, that's lucky. I wouldn't have known to do that. I wouldn't have realized that a spin like that takes the air out of your tire. I knew nothing about cars. So I look up in the rear view mirror, and here's the moment that I want you especially, gentlemen, to think about. I looked up in the rear view mirror, and he was gone. There was no truck. There's no truck there. Now, there are different ways of looking at this story. I think there are two different ways. One is you can sort of see a kind of a reason for everything. I mean, that moment felt so long while I was spinning around because the adrenaline that pumps into your body and you're thinking that way. And, I had a sense of my future because I'd already wanted to be a priest. And I kind of came around on the end, and this guy hadn't seen me, but maybe he saw me before, and he kind of looped around like a good Samaritan, came back around and got me. But I was still so upset that, maybe a couple minutes went by before I looked in the rearview mirror and he'd driven on. Right? Good explanations for all of it. Just thank heaven he was there and he responded the way he did with the skill that he did. A human being acting like an angel. But there's another possibility. I looked up in the rearview mirror and he wasn't there. There was nobody on that road. But there he was. And he saw me. And he saved me. Maybe an angel. Maybe an angel looking like a human being. We don't know. But either way you look at it, whether it's an angel acting like a human being or a human being acting like an angel, it reminds us, doesn't it, that we are protected in the hand of God. And if we look in that rearview mirror, there's a black pickup truck, isn't there? You guys graduated. You probably got several pickup trucks in the rearview mirror. Lots of people who saw you take that spin came out and helped you. I always tell my students when they're graduating that there's only one good way to graduate. There's only one good way to leave. And that's to say thank you. This is an occasion in your life when you can really look in that rearview mirror and look for those pickup trucks and look for those people. Maybe they're angels who acted like people, or maybe they are people who acted like angels. But you need to say thank you when you know it. And thank you is a good way to leave, but much more importantly, thank you is the best way to start. If you can go into your life grateful, then you aren't going to be a taker, you're going to be a giver. You aren't going to just be drinking, you're going to be pouring. And your glass is always going to be half full. Good luck.